One of the first operations, which is used often in architectural modeling, is the extrusion of a curve. So let's go back to one of our curves. Maybe we can draw a circle this time. We just create it somewhere, define the radius. The circle is created with 2 clicks. We can turn this curve into a surface with an extrusion operation. And we click back on our tools. The extrusion is over here, a straight extrusion. Or we can find it in the surface menu, extrude curve, straight. Straight means that it is perpendicular to the plane of the curve. In this case, we stretch it into the top. Best to do this in a shaded viewport. And then we see that the edges of the curve are stretched out, extruded to a surface. In this case, an open cylinder. The cylinder itself is not closed. It is an extrusion of an open shape. However, if we do the same thing, for instance, we create an ellipse, move it a bit, and we turn it into a planar curve first. Planar curve. We have a comparable operation, not simply to extrude the curve, but also to extrude a surface. So we click, and that's very important where you click. You see that you have a surface and you have the curve. And the regular way that Rhino works is that these two objects are independent of each other. So we start from a curve, and from the curve we derive a surface, but we can move the surface and the curve is still there. So if we click on the surface, we can also do an extrusion, but in this case, that's a solid extrusion. An extrusion from a planar curve or from a surface, we can also do a straight extrusion. And in this case, if we extrude it, we see that we have an enclosed volume. The enclosed volume, if we look at the properties, in fact, it is a polysurface. And a polysurface is a series of surfaces grouped together to form an enclosed volume. Closed solid polysurface with 3 surfaces: the top surface, the bottom surface, and the side surfaces. We see some more information. Now, if we click on it, it has become a single object, but we can explode it again. The same way as we exploded the rectangle into separate curves, we can explode the polysurface into 3 separate surfaces. And now we have the sides, bottom surface, and a top surface. And we still have the original surface from which we started. So at the moment we extruded the surface into a planar, into a solid volume, the original surface has been left. And in fact, this surface would have been the same if we just have extruded this curve. So remember, you can extrude a curve, then you can extrude a surface, and if you extrude a surface, you'll directly get a polysurface, an enclosed volume. If you only extrude a curve, you get an open surface.